Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Danny, and I'm an alcoholic. Cheers. Happy conference. I'd first like to start by thanking Diane for calling me up and having me here. And thank you, Trish the Dish, for picking us up at the airport on our 19-hour adventure here. And I'd also like to thank my speaker partners for the wonderful, invigorating conversations that we had on the way up here. You guys really live in a beautiful, beautiful place. Why would you ever leave? It's so nice here. So it's really nice to be here. Thank you for having me here. If you're new to Alcoholics Anonymous, I welcome you. If you're returning and you're coming back, I really, really welcome you. I don't really have a can pitch, but I'm considering bottling it. All right. I like this stage. I can make my own rim shots up here. All right. I'm a little under the weather, so I might be starting off a little slow. So anyway, did I mention I'm an alcoholic? I have a body that just can't stop drinking and a head that thinks that I can just have one. And I can't do that. Oh yeah, I was supposed to start my timer. Let me start my timer. Here. Well, I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, we don't need this. We don't need that. Okay? No. All right. All right. Okay. All right, so my dad was a colonel in the Air Force. We moved around a lot. I had two brothers. I was the middle. I was the scapegoat. I had that Target logo on my forehead, right? And everything was my fault, right? My little brother's very first word he ever learned how to say was, "Mom!" He was a tattletale. And anything that happened in the family was my fault. It was always my fault. They have terms for the things that I did now. But back then they didn't have the terms. Now the terms are I was acting out, seeking negative attention in a dysfunctional family. They boiled it down to just one word, and the last part of it was whole, right? So I was just called to just a little, and no one knew what to do with me. And I always, from my dawn of memory, my earliest recollection was I have landed on the wrong planet, and I am wearing the wrong Earth suit. This is wrong. This doesn't fit. No one's ever happy when I'm around. I always muck things up, and I'm just better off over there. So my first tool for living was out, right? I wanted out of the family, out of the car, out of the window, out of this relationship, out of my room. And I remember my first family car was a Rambler Ambassador station wagon. And they made a movie about it's called The Way, Way Back. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. The seat in the back of our station wagon, the very last one, faced this way. And whenever we had to go somewhere as a group, which didn't happen very much, but when we did, I ran out there and I got in that seat because I wanted away from you. And it was away from my dad, who would just be driving, and anytime he heard something he didn't like, which was everything, he would just swing his arm. But I was in the way, way back. So... So my second tool for living was I learned that if you hit something hard enough and enough times, it would agree with you or it would leave you alone. Because, I came from a house where I was held down and hit with extension cords and belt buckles and pulled on my arm so hard that my shoulder would dislocate all the time. I had to tell the doctor that I fell off my bike a lot. It wasn't very happy, but don't worry, this story has a happy ending. But it wasn't very happy then. I was in fear all the time. I was afraid. And I just remember at some point, getting a beating and some switch went off in me where I thought, I am not going to cry anymore. You are not going to get the satisfaction of ever seeing me cry. And a switch went off. And that's how I kind of lived my life. I just wanted out, and I just was really violent, and I was really crazy, and I was chaotic all the time until I was 12 years old. Somebody handed me my first drink, Boone's Farm strawberry wine. As my sponsor would say, no grapes involved. I heard you guys talking about it in the car today. It was some, to us professional drunkies and junkies, man, that's not really very potent. But when you're 12 years old and if you never had a drink, Boone's Farm strawberry wine is like gasoline, And it seemed like, it felt like the bottle was like this big, I was just a little kid, and I grabbed that bottle, man, and I started chugging on it like it was Gatorade and I was a basketball player, I was just duck, 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 duck. And I remember somebody going, dude, you better slow down. And I was like, the book talks about we were people that tried to control and enjoy our drinking. Never. I never wanted to control anything. All I wanted was oblivion. All I wanted was as much as I could get to get that last little second of right before you blacked out of, all right? So I'm chugging, and I drank the whole thing. I wouldn't give it back. And that thing happened. That thing happened that makes me different from the normal person. It changed nothing changed then. Nothing changed. I was still short and inadequate and not funny and not very good looking. But suddenly, I became charismatic and wonderful and funny and perfect Anchorman teeth. And my friends, it was in a baseball dugout. I think it was in Washington, D.C. I was going to the first school in the United States that did the desegregation, the busing, and it was just nuts. And I just remember for the first time in my life, man, I felt kind of okay, right? In the rest of my life, I spent thousands of dollars trying to feel okay, trying to get to zero, trying to get to the absence of pain. And then the next thing that happened, I know this is an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and I respect our singleness of purpose. However, this is what happened. It was a long time ago, and somebody handed me a joint. Now, nowadays, they have this kind of marijuana that I think NASA makes, and like one hit can cure colon cancer. But the marijuana that I smoked, you used to have to get a record and clean the seeds out, or a shoebox. And the person that rolled this joint didn't get that memo. So the joint came to me. Oh, something happened before that. I started throwing up that Boone's Farm strawberry wine. I held onto the dugout and I started puking like the way we puke. Like when you expect to see your socks come out, And I remember thinking while this was happening, if this doesn't kill me, I'm doing this again, man. I'm doing this. And there I am. So I'm covered. I got really long hair, because I was a rocker, man. I wanted to be the next John Bonham, and I had strawberry puke in my hair all over my shirt. And they lit up this, and I was already smoking Camel cigarettes, and they lit up this joint. And the guy wasn't smoking it like a cigarette. He was like, and, you want to say when you haven't done something that you've done before, you want to say, excuse me, what are you doing? But you can't do that. If you're an alcoholic, you can't tell people that you don't know how to do something. You have to just pretend like, oh yeah, I've done this a lot. So the joint comes over to me, and there was a seed in it, and it popped, and it stuck to my forehead. And my forehead's on fire, right? It's burning. I'm sitting there, strawberry puke covering me with my forehead on fire. It's my first day getting loaded. And I'm like, I love this, man. I love this. I couldn't wait to get more. That was my first day. So we moved from the Pentagon around then. I had gotten suspended from all the schools that I was going to there. And that was the one good thing about being an Air Force brat. By the time I burned every little bridge that I could possibly burn, it was time to move again, And I was starting to visit places like mental. I was starting to see psychiatrists. I was starting to see the counselor at school. I was starting to see a lot of people that kept asking me the same thing. What's wrong with you? And I was like, you're the one that's got the degrees on the wall. Shouldn't you be telling me that? I have no idea what's wrong with me. Way up into my adult life, I have no idea why I do the things that I do, and I wish that I didn't do them. I wish I wasn't always... Page 82 of our book sure says it the best. The alcoholic is like a tornado roaring through the lives of others. I don't want to necessarily be a tornado all the time. Yes, sometimes I chose to be. Sometimes I've walked into a place thinking, I'm going to be a tornado. But most of the time, I didn't want to ruin the relationship that I had, or the job that I had, or the place where I lived. I didn't want the whole building to not want to pay their rent until I moved out. I didn't want to live like that. But that's how it happened. And, and in the doctor's opinion, it says that we learned that we had an allergy. As alcoholics, we have an allergy, and it explained a lot. It sure did. Oh, that's why I do all those things. Oh. So we moved to San Antonio, Texas. My father became the head of the Inspector General's office for the Air Force. And I was starting to see reform schools, and it's this part of my drink changed from Boone's Farm to Southern Comfort. Yeah, improperly named, because no one was ever comfortable when I drank Southern Comfort. Totally wrong name. But it was, I remember why I started drinking it, because it had that half pint, it was kind of rounded, and it fit down into my boot when we would go into concerts, and I could stick it down in there. So it became my drink, Southern Comfort. And then I found Seconal and Nabutol and Tuinol and All in All, and I liked being like Gumby. That was my idea. I just wanted to be so hammered that I didn't have to be me. I wanted to be anything other than me. And every time I came out of a blackout, when I came to, I was usually really disappointed that I was alive, but I was especially disappointed that I was still me. I remember looking at people. I would look at people, man, and I would think, I would look at people that couldn't walk and think I would trade places with that person just to not feel the way I'm feeling. So anyway, running around in San Antonio, Texas, and God gave me, or something gave me a gift. I was given this gift of time. I had this natural ability to play the drums. I had time. It's the one, it's like the one thing that we can't give a newcomer around here. We can arm them with all these facts and books and point them to the right meetings where only the solution is talked about. But the only thing we can't give each other around here is the willingness. And one thing as a musician you can't be taught is time. You either have it or you do not. You don't learn it. And I had it, right? And when I was moving around all the time in school, they would pass out these little index cards, and they'd say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I never wrote, I want to be on a 5150 with a catheter in me. That's what I want. I want to be a newcomer in an AA meeting with a sense of impending doom. Right? With no self-esteem, with this big sense of entitlement. No. I want to be a baseball player. I want to be a drummer. I want to be something. I had a dream, and alcohol stole that dream from me. It robbed me of now, it robbed me of you, and it robbed me of every dream that I ever had, So I was running around back then, and the school got a hold of me, and I had this, they went and brought the whole school to my locker, and I had this big jar of Seconal in my locker, and they made a big deal of it, and they frowned on that. I know. Totally not understanding. I was only going to school to sell drugs at this point, and they said I was gifted. They said I had a lot of potential if only I would apply myself. These things probably sound familiar to you. We're very bright people, aren't we? It's amazing how we can stay loaded, isn't it? The things that we can come up with to get a buzz, isn't it? I have this guy that I sponsor, man. We were looking at his 9th step, looking at his 8th step and how he was going to make a 9th step for this. He went up this stairs, this fire escape, and came down 9 floors with a 63-inch plasma TV. He had bed sheets around it, and he came down with one arm and got it perfect so that he could go and get an 8-ball with it. And he was so proud. But when I asked him to go down 3 blocks from his house to go to a meeting, he's like, dude, bro. It's amazing, isn't it? In working with others, it says, seeing your man from the second time he has read this entire volume. The whole book! But I sponsor guys, I'm like 4 months into it. Dude, have you finished the doctor's opinion yet? Bro, dude. I'm just saying. So anyway, where was I, Rick?
You were
I was in San Antonio, Texas. Yeah, and I wanted to be a drummer, and oh yeah, they called my father and they said, we got your son Danny selling drugs at school. And he said, I don't have a son named Danny, and hung up on me, and I was given to the court. And I was then raised by wolves, and my family moved to the Philippines. He became the commander of Clark Air Force Base, and now the people that love me the most, that were supposed to, threw me away. So screw you. I have no use for you. I never liked people anyway. Remember Barfly with Mickey Rourke and Faye Dunaway? There's a scene where Faye Dunaway, she says to him, he's playing Charles Bukowski, and she says, people, don't you hate people? And he says, no, but I seem to feel better when they're not around. My sentiments exactly. I don't necessarily hate people, but I've always done a lot better when they were over there, So now there I am on my own, and I'm running around, and I'm playing the drums, and I'm on the streets, and none of my drums match. They all come from the pawn shop, and I got no moral compass whatsoever. I have absolutely no anchors. And I hear about this audition for Rod Stewart. I was 19. I heard about this audition for Rod Stewart in Hollywood, California. Now, is there any other liars in the room? Huh? Really? Like all of you? I used to lie so much, I have fond memories of things that never even happened to me, It's like, I'll be telling somebody a story right in the middle, and I'm thinking, because the book talks about it, where I can no longer distinguish the false from the real. Like, I'll be in the middle of telling you a story, and I'm like, I don't even know if this really happened, but it is a great story. So I'm just telling you, right? But this is what really happened. There really was an audition for Rod Stewart. I really did take my drums. I really did put them in the Greyhound bus. I really did come to Hollywood. But I really never met Rod Stewart. Because there was a pawn shop open all night at the bus station in L.A., downtown right there. And so my drums, bing, they were gone. But I told so many people all my life that I played drums for Rod Stewart that still to this day, when Hot Legs comes on the radio, I admire my own drumming. There have been times when I was so inebriated, I would have beautiful memories of the tours that I went on because I lied so much about it, So I didn't do that. I never met him. So 1979, I came to Hollywood, and my drums went into the pawn shop, and absolutely zero tools for living, no idea on even how to have a conversation with somebody. All I ever was looking for back then was sometimes sex, drugs, alcohol, money. Do you know anybody that has any of these? If not, out of the way. Next. That's all I knew. And I was just living like an animal then. And in 1982, I walked into this bar in Hollywood called The Nest. And, man, there she was. She looked like Marilyn Monroe, Really dark, seedy bar with the colored bottles on the back. You know how they looked so beautiful. They looked like little hookers back there, Just all sexy back there in different colored light. They put them at eye level on purpose, just so they'll dance for you, And there she was, man, this beautiful, beautiful woman who taught me how to drink 2/5 of Gilby's gin before breakfast and exactly what to eat with it so I wouldn't throw it up and I could get drunk. And I admired her for that. So I married her. I did. And that was a crazy, crazy marriage. The wedding was like a Quentin Tarantino film. That's a whole nother story. Unfortunately, she was killed by a drunk driver on the back of a Harley Davidson, and I was out running around on the streets, and my life was absolutely crazy, just crazy. I didn't know where my family was. I had really no friends to speak of. I was going in and out of institutions all the time, getting, where's people been on a 5150 before? Where you at? Really? That's it? All right. Attaboy. An involuntary hold, a 3-day hold, a danger to yourself and others, right? I had been on plenty of those, and nobody ever told me about AA. Never. All those places I was going to where they'd say, what's wrong with you? No one ever mentioned going to AA, ever. And so I'm bouncing back and forth from Hollywood to San Francisco, and I'm living on the streets in San Francisco without Carl Malden. And I'm wearing everything I owned. It's 1982. I'm 22 years old. I'm wearing everything I own, and my life went completely full circle back around to, here, before I get to this, I want to talk about something. In the doctor's opinion, it says that we learned as alcoholics we had to abstain from alcohol in all forms. And I'm sure, see, my sponsor let me have my own experience with the big book. He didn't sit there and read every word and give me the book as he sees it. He let me have my experience with it. It's my alcoholism, a common solution that we have, but he let me have my experience with it. And the way I interpret that line, that I need to abstain from alcohol in all its forms, I'm sure when they wrote it, they meant bathtub gin, moonshine, beer, whiskey. But here it is, 2017. I'm thinking they might also mean smokable alcohol, and snortable alcohol, injectable alcohol, pill form alcohol. I got to stay away from it because it's all anti-Danny medication. It's all made to take me out of right here, right now. That's what it's all for. And what I would like to say is whatever your problem is that there is a solution here for you. And I want to tell you that you're so welcome here. And all I came up here to tell you is that you can do this. That if I can do this and stand before you, totally different man than came here, then so can you. All right, back to the story, Rick.
22 years old.
22 years old.
San Francisco.
I'm in San Francisco, and I'm hiding in a phone booth. I'm living in Civic Center Park. I'm wearing everything I own. I got mats in my hair. I got holes in all my teeth. The best thing I can do to get a drink, I either run in the liquor store and steal some Night Train or some MD 2020. Again, no grapes involved. Or I go to the bar. They used to smoke in bars in California. They used to let them do that, which was good if you're a drunk, because I would go in there with 2 big Tupperware, right, under my shirt. And if you go, you know where the railing is, where the waitress comes and brings it's a magical place. If you go over there, did you know there are people that don't finish their drink? And there are some people that will throw a cigarette butt in a perfectly good drink? Perfect. Now, if you go in there, back then, at around 5 minutes to last call, and just stand over there, she brings them all over to you. She just brings them there and sets them there. And every time she goes out for more, I throw them in my Tupperware. And then after I filled it up, I go out behind the bar, and I take the empty one, put it under my shirt, and I strain the cigarette butts in there. And now some people call that pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I call it a Long Island tea. Genius. But you know, when I tell that story, sometimes people are like, ew. You know? Because how many people here have snorted things off of a public bathroom before? But isn't it funny, though, when we get sober now, we're suddenly like, is that filtered water? Is that gluten-free? Oh, shut up. You smoked things out of your carpet before. Yeah, she did. I love the tweakers, man. Vacuuming the ceiling. Fixing things that ain't broke. I love you. Oh, yeah, so that's what I was doing. The only human contact I was having at that time was either when the cops were searching me and, before they would handcuff me, or when I was sleeping in doorways on the streets down there, and they would kick my feet to tell me to get up. And so I'm hiding in a phone booth. I would hide because I couldn't make eye contact with you, I would put the mat of my hair in my face so you wouldn't see me, because if I locked eyes with you, I knew you knew how I felt about myself. And I just spent most of the time staring at my feet, looking at my feet. So I'm hiding in this phone booth. Is there any... Dude, do you know that we used to have phone booths? We used to have phone booths, dude. We had these machines that you could put money in and call people. And guess what? If they weren't there, the phone would just ring and ring and ring. They didn't even know you called. They were out eating their dinner, not taking pictures of it and making people look at it. They were just eating it. And if you wanted to see their cat sleeping, you had to come in the house to see the cat. Come over, drive to their house, walk in, look, cat sleeping, and then leave. So I'm hiding in this phone booth. I'm hiding in there, hiding from the people that are doing all these things that I find completely mysterious, like bathing, working, being kind to each other, having these things called jobs, and just all this stuff. And I'm like, how do they do that? And while I'm hiding in this phone booth in Civic Center Park, there's this bumper sticker. It says, do you have a drinking problem? Call 1-800-Alcoholics Anonymous. And you could call collect. And so I called, and I could still hear her voice. She goes,
Alcoholics Anonymous, this is Judy. How can I help you?
and all I could say back then, if I wasn't yelling at you, I was crying. I was not in charge of the machine anymore. She got my name out of me. She said, Danny, do you think you can make it to Bush and Goff to a meeting? Now, if you don't know San Francisco, Civic Center Park is here, Bush and Goff is here. And that's straight up. And if you're an alcoholic and there's not a drink at the other end of this, it's a long, long way, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll go. 22 years old, I'm the color of almost the color of Carla's shirt. I'm like iodine because I'm a wino. And I'm walking up this hill to this thing called Alcoholics Anonymous that I've never heard of. And in my brain, it sounds like, you know when they interview DEA narco witness on TV and they blur their face out and make your voice sound like this. That's what I think the room's going to be filled with, because it's anonymous. I think it's going to be a bunch of people with blurred faces, and they're all, I don't know what to expect, but my brain is trying to talk me out of going there. The beast is alive and well. If you're new, we have this thing. It's the greater aspect of our disease. It's called the mental obsession. In my lineage, we call it the beast. The beast is just wanting to talk me out of going into that room. The beast, the thing that when you walk into a room and you look where the speaker's sitting and you never heard him say a word before and you think, hate him. That's why we say look for the similarities, not the differences, because the beast looks for the differences so that I can find a reason to go out of here and continue to kill myself, right? So I'm walking up, I walk into my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Walk in, and there's some dudes, they love to hug. And it's always the big guys. I don't know why. I walk in and I'm like, I don't know what to expect, and all these people are being really nice to each other, and then this big guy sees me, and he's like the size of a football player, and he starts running over, and I think, uh-oh, I've been here before, because somebody's coming and they're mad. But he comes up to me, and I look like a chick on speed. I'm like a size none. I'm like, this guy comes running at me, and I go, don't do it. And he comes over and he gives me this hug, and he picks me up and he goes, I love you. And he puts me down. And I tell him, like I'm Clint Eastwood, I go, don't ever do that again. And he picks me up again. Bam. And I'm standing there, man, I don't know what's going on. Oh my God, this is crazy, man. I'm covered with pee and wine and, and mats in my hair. And this little lady, where's the woman that I was talking to right before the meeting? I said, you have a mom quality about you. Where are you? Where are you? Is it Barb? There you are. Hi, Barb. Yeah, this woman, you remind me of her, Peg. This woman, but she had this Florence Henderson hairdo. Google it, right? She's like Mrs. Brady. She comes over to me, and she's got this sweater on. The only thing she was missing was like a plate of oatmeal cookies. And she comes over, and it had been a long time since I had a hug. And she put her arms around me, and she goes, Danny, you never have to feel like you're feeling if you don't want to, and you never have to do what you're doing to yourself. And I shattered, man. I couldn't even hug her back. I just cried in her arms, turned into jelly, So I started going to those meetings 4 times a week or something. Every time I walk in, that big dude, no matter what he was doing, he'd stop. And he'd come running over, and I'd go, don't do it. Oh, I love you. Like that, right? And he would do it every time. Every time he would come running over, man. And after I don't know, 30 days or something like that, I walked in, and he just kept talking. He didn't come running over. And I was like, I started getting used to it. I started liking it. Now I don't care when big guys hug me, man. I lift my leg like that and nuzzle, ask them where they work out, And which reminds me, I want every single person in this room to line up and give me a hug, because Alcoholics Anonymous has let me become the gentle, kind man that I was always meant to be, that I've always been in conflict with, right? So anyway, back to the story. All right. I'd like to tell you that I stayed sober from that moment on, but I didn't. No. I went in and out. And in 1985, I started 8 years of I sponsor myself recovery. Not really recovery. Just untreated alcoholism. No big book, no steps, no sponsor. You've seen these people. They usually have this big vein right here on the side of their head, and they're walking around trying to give you what they have. And you're like, no thanks. You go ahead and keep that. You know what I mean? I don't want it. It's usually those grumpy people at those steering committee meetings. You've seen them. You all are thinking about certain people as I mention it right now. I love at participation meetings too, where they go, where the leader, they go, okay, you're leading, whatever you do, don't call on blah, 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 right? And if they accidentally do and they go, okay, would you like to share? The whole room goes, Sometimes it's hard to act better than you feel, isn't it? Don't I know it? So for 8 years, I didn't make any changes at all. I was just not drinking, right? And I was just doing all kinds of I wasn't changing in my life, man. And in 1993, I went to an AA meeting. I parked my Harley Davidson in the doorway, and I dared anybody to come near it. I took a metal medallion, an 8-year medallion, and I told the room a bunch of terrible words. I said a bunch of terrible stuff that I would never repeat. And I told you, AA don't work. Like, you know, if you go online and you see all the people that call us a cult and all the people that say terrible things about us that have no idea about what AA is, that's what I said to that room. And the truth was, I had no idea what AA was. Because we're named after a book, right? The books is the thing that's called Alcoholics Anonymous. I never read it. I never practiced any of those principles. I didn't have a sponsor. I didn't call them. I didn't do the 4 things that I was taught to do. I was just going to meetings. That's all I was doing, going to meetings. I was getting there late, so I wouldn't have to talk to you. Didn't have to chit-chat. Didn't know how to chit-chat. How do I even pretend to care about your day? Are you kidding me? Right? And I would leave early, so I didn't have to talk to you. But I wasn't doing those other things, like having a sponsor, working the 12 steps, and giving it to somebody else. That magic, right? The big buzz. This is a room full of people that love the big buzz, am I right?
Yes, indeed.
Right? These are not the people that said, I'd like a little teeny bitty baby buzz, please, right? No. And the big buzz, what I found is reaching your hand into hell, pulling somebody out, taking them, sitting across from a table, and watching this light go across their eyes when the word comes over their brain that says, maybe. Because all my life, the word that always screamed in my forehead was, never. This is never going to happen for me. You're going to get to have a job. You get to get married. You get to have a nice this. You get to feel okay. You get to have it. When they would read the promises, I would think, oh yeah, and we'll all ride home on a Pegasus. It ain't going to happen to me. It's never going to happen. I've screwed everything up in my life. I don't need to look past my life to know that if there's a God, he doesn't think much of me, because look at my life. It's never going to happen. But I love when I get to be some kind of catalyst, maybe, that gets to play a very small part in the word maybe to somebody that's never felt that. It's called hope. And this room's filled with it. I feel it. You feel it? I feel it. Man. Yeah, so I went out. I went out that night. I challenged every man in that room to a fist fight. I was walking around all day. You know, I was a boxer, a mixed martial artist, pretty good with my hands. I was one of those guys that was so big, the only person that thought I looked good was another big guy. You know what I mean? Hey, how you doing? You know when you go to a meeting too and you see the guy, the first thing you meet about him is their neck? I should say, what's up? You know, that was me, you know? But what that really meant when I was in the back of a room like this was, man, I wish I could ask you for help and have a hug, but I don't know how to do that, so stay away. Because how do you do that? How do you process feelings? Grandpa never sat on the log with me fishing to discuss how to process a feeling. I processed a feeling like this. Bam, right? What was that woman? She said, the only time I ever let go was to get a better grip. I love that. That's the only time I was not I'm a holder honor. So, so I went in and out for 15 years. For 15 years, every single morning I was like, okay, I'm not going to get drunk today. I'm not going to get drunk today. And I would be drunk in less than an hour. And I couldn't stop. And I didn't know why I couldn't stop. I wasn't armed with any information. I was just going to meetings to ask people, would you like to go to coffee? You know what that means, right? In AA, that means, would you like to have sex? Would you like to go to coffee? And women would say, boy, would I not like to go to coffee with you. And so I was going to meetings to hook up. I wasn't going to learn anything. And so I had no idea. I didn't know anything about the fact that I had an allergy of the body, that I had a mental obsession. I didn't know anything of that about that. But I knew that there was something here. I knew that I didn't have to drink anymore. I knew that. I knew that there was another way. But I had a hard time coming in and out of meetings. I would go in and out, in and out. And you know, we have this, is there a circle and a triangle on the podium? So we have this circle and a triangle. You guys, if you have never seen it, it's on our tie-dye shirt. Let's see our shirt. See? Ta-da! It's an ancient symbol, right? For mind, body, and spirit. Therein lies a whole human being. And in 1955, well, we stole it, but we say we adopted it. Adopted is just a nice word for like, I adopted your car. You know, I crawled in through the window of your living room and I adopted your TV. Right? We adopted it, and we called it Unity, Recovery, and Service. And unity is the first side of the triangle, right? Unity is the first side. Unity is the body. I bring it to a meeting. And my job as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous is hopefully to anybody that I come in contact with here is to make you feel a part of. To feel a part of, right? But when I was coming in and out, I wasn't feeling that. I'd had people yelling to me from across the room, "Hey, Danny, how many days do you have now?" Humiliating me. That's not unity, that's division. Some people really forget how hard it is to get sober. It ain't easy, is it? It is tough, and I remember how tough it is. I like that picture you got in the archives room of the man in the bed, right? With Dr. Bob and Bill going to see Bill D, right? I got to remember what that's like, or else at the very best, I'll be the man in the bed. I got to be that guy visiting the man in the bed. So anyway, I'm going in and out, in and out, in and out, and in and out. And I was dating this girl that had about 12 years of good sobriety. Why? I'd like to say hello and a warm lot of love to the Al-Anon in the room. All the respect that I have for you. Thank you for loving the unlovable. You know, how it is that I managed to keep people in my life when I was in the cups of my alcoholism, I'll never know. But I was living with this girl named Vicky Smart, me and my pit bull, Brooklyn. And we were living at her house, and I couldn't hold a job. I wasn't employable. I wasn't lovable at all. And she would pull her car around, and she wouldn't say, "Okay, you can't stay here. You gotta, unless you come to a meeting tonight." She would just pull around every night while I was drinking the first of my 10 king-size Coronas and smoking my 1/4 ounce of marijuana and taking my 50 Valium for the day. And she would pull the car around and she'd go, "I'm going to a meeting." And I'd be, "Rah, rah, 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 eh, rah, rah, bunch of liars, rah, rah, rah." And she'd go, "Okay." She'd drive off. Every night, same thing. Well, one night she pulled around and she said, "You can keep living in my house and you can sleep in my bed and I'll cook for you and I'll feed your dog. But you're getting in the car tonight or you're getting out." Well, I'm not stupid. I got in the car. And she took me to this meeting called Rodeo. Back when it was on Rodeo. Let me describe Rodeo to you. It's 700 people all doing better than all of us. They have veneered teeth, Jimmy Choo, Dolce Gabbana, 8-figure salaries. They're all just wonderful. And there I am back there with my, feeling like, what's his name from the Peanuts gang? Pigpen. I felt like Pigpen, with my loser balloon, right? Once again, I remember the first time I held the loser balloon. It was in a gymnasium about this size when we had a junior high school dance. And all the guys would be on one side and all the girls would be on the other, right? And this is the toughest thing the second hardest thing I've ever done is walk across a gym and ask a girl to dance, right? Because all the way over my mantra is, she's going to say no. She's going to say no. "Hi, would you like to dance?" "I don't like this song." Loser balloon, all the way back across. I knew she was going to say no. And there I felt exactly you know what the other hardest thing I've ever done is? Walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous with greeters on either side of the door. Oh my God. That is so hard. How do you do that? And they're waiting to greet you when you're 30 feet away. They're like, I pulled up. When I was new, I have pulled up to a meeting and thought, not tonight. There's got to be another way in. Because they're going to ask you stuff like, "How you doing?" I don't know how I'm doing. I don't know. Don't ask me that. So she took me to this meeting, And I'm sitting back there with my big loser balloon, a guy that used to have 8 years, but's been going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, can't stay sober, and I just feel so pathetic. And I'm sitting right on the aisle, and this guy named Earl she brought me there to hear this guy named Earl talk, right? And I'd never heard of him, never seen him talk, and when he started talking to me, it was like those close-ups they do in the movie, where like he was talking straight to me. And he wasn't probably saying anything any different from any good member of Alcoholics Anonymous like our sponsors do, but for some reason, I could hear him. He was talking to me, and that little word came to the back of my head. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I don't have to die. So I asked him to sponsor me, or I walked up to him and I said, will you sponsor me? And he said, yeah. So for the next 15 years, that man sponsored me, never gave up on me. Like waiting for 7 hours in line at the LA County Jail to see me for 4 minutes, not giving up on me. Like coming to Glendale Adventist when they're taking the catheter out of me on yet another 5150, not giving up on me. Like driving across California, visiting me in institutions. He didn't tell me about AA. He showed me AA. He didn't say, go thank the speaker, Danny. He said, come on, let's go thank the speaker. Right? And you didn't call me at 2:02 every Thursday, so I'm not sponsoring you anymore. He didn't say that. He just would find me every once in a while I was out there. He'd reach into me and he'd squeeze my heart and crack me open just enough to make me to know that, because I'd stopped believing in myself. I didn't have any belief in myself, but he let me know that he believed in me. He demonstrated to me that he cared about me and that he loved me. I love getting emotional in a room full of people, man, with fluorescent light. So, then what happened, Rick?
And Earl probably told you to do something, you did it.
No, Earl never told me. I never went and asked him what to do. So for years and years, I was going in and out, in and out, in and out, and I'd get to the meeting late, and I'd leave. I'd sit in the meeting, right? I'd set up my chairs, and I'd sit in the meeting, and the beast would start talking to me so loud. You know when you go to a nice hotel and you turn on the TV and it tries to sell you porn and it goes, after hours. You guys know what I'm talking about? So I'm not crazy. Do you know what I'm talking about? The beast would show up in my head. You know how we talk about cunning, baffling, and powerful? My beast is like this little 5'2" hooker in a miniskirt. And I'd be sitting in a meeting, just sitting on my chairs, and all of a sudden she'd go, hi, Danny. Let's go get a Corona. Just one Corona, come on, you're so manly. You need a Corona. And she'd talk me into it. It would be so loud, I would think the person sitting next to me could hear it. And it's funny, as soon as I gave her a tiny little sip, she turned into a pimp from Harlem. Get in the car! Where's my money? You don't need your dignity and your self-esteem either where we're going. Come on, you know? And I would not know what to do with that. I would come in and out, I wouldn't tell anybody about it, right? The beast was just dragging me around. And I'm sitting in my home group, good old AA in Sherman Oaks, California. 40 people on this side facing this way, 40 people on this side facing this way, right? And it's one of those meetings where you can't raise your hand. You got to be called on. Perfect place to get a resentment in AA. Oh, really? I got to be called on, not good enough. Got to be in your little clique once again. Once again, I don't get to have what you have. And you know that guy I talked about that you're not supposed to call on in the room? I had become the guy to not be called on. I wasn't even Danny there. I was the angry guy that Earl sponsors. Because I just didn't know what to do with my feelings. And I was sitting there next to Earl one night, and this is how I joined AA. I had been to thousands of AA meetings, thousands, and I never, ever once felt part of. And this is how I got to feel part of. I'm sitting there next to Earl, and the woman didn't get the memo. She goes, would you like to share? And I turned to Earl, and I said, can I say whatever I want? He goes, go ahead. And I told him, you're a bunch of... And I believed if I was on fire right now, not one of you would pee on me. And this woman, 2 rows behind me, Margie, she said, I'd pee on you, Danny. And you know what happened right then and there? That chip that I had been carrying around on my shoulder fell off. I was laughing too. And I thought, I want to be in AA, man. I totally want to be in AA. And as soon as a group of people got away from Earl at the end of the meeting, I walked over there and I go, dude, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. And he said, go talk to that guy right there. And I turned into Forrest Gump. I said, okay. I just walked over there. Okay. And I started my journey of contrary actions where I don't do what I would like to do and I do what I don't want to do. You know, many a time I have volunteered for things that I did not want to do, you know, and we need a speaker seeker. I'm like, what the heck? You know, 2-year commitment. What is this? You know, because I took that attitude of I will do anything to stay sober. And I have never not taken my sponsor's direction. You know those greeters I was telling you about? My meeting had way too many greeters. 6 on either side of a small door. Way too many. No way in without saying, you know, how you doing? Fine. How you doing? Fine. How you doing? Fine. You know, it's just like, Sometimes I would just walk through and just go, you know, because, what the thing was, too, is I really wanted to get in that meeting, and I didn't want to say anything rude to those people because it was the last place I had to go. It was my only hope. And I'm sitting there talking to Earl going, those damn greeter people are so obnoxious. And Earl goes, that commitment looks like a good idea. I have a sponsor translator that said, get that commitment or die. So I walked over and I started being the greeter guy. I'd be there every Monday night and I would act better than I feel. Hi, how are you? And I'd think, boy, I hope you don't share tonight, you know. But I would do my commitment, right? So I don't even have a clue of where I am on time. Okay. I was about 8 months sober. The only thing I believed in at this time was I believed that Earl believed. All the rest of you, liars. Didn't believe a word out of your mouth. But I knew this man and I knew his story. And I would you ever watch your sponsor out of the corner of your eye? I used to do that when I was new. I would watch him and Earl, and I'd be like, he really believes this stuff. He likes it, you know? It must be something to it. Okay, I believe that he believes. And when I had 8 months sober, I went and swiped my card at the ATM and it said, please contact Financial Center. That's an express stop to the 9th step. It's called a levy. I never paid my taxes. Why would I? I was going to be dead tomorrow. Why would I pay my taxes if I needed every dollar for every drop, right? So I'm calling my sponsor on the phone. I'm like, dude, they took all my money. I don't have anything to live off of. He goes, just go to the meeting and do your commitment. And I did, in my brain, I thought, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. But okay. I just went and did it. You know, he taught me early on in my sobriety, you don't have to like it. You don't have to think it's a good idea. You just got to do it, right? You just got to do it. So I'd go there, and I was wondering how I'm going to pay my rent and how I'm going to make my truck payment while I listened to rich people problems about, my third business lost $1 million this year, and I'm wondering how I'm going to pay my rent, you know? So, one about this time, I met this girl, and we got along for about 90 days, and I called Earl, and I said, Michelle and I are getting married. Right? See, this is why we need to have a sponsor, right? So, because, I need to verbalize it. I remember Scott Ribbon used to say, if you're new, tell us about the plan. We want to hear the plan. He used to say it'd be a bestseller on the literature rack, Plans of the Newcomer. So true. Because when I call my sponsor and I say things to him and hear the insanity get verbalized into words, and even I, while I'm saying them, going, that's stupid, right? Earl, do you think I should get back together with Debbie? Oh, Debbie? You mean the one that when you broke up with her, she broke the window of your truck, put the garden hose in, and turned it on for 8 hours? No, Danny, it's probably a bad idea. Oh, yeah, you're right. Because brain is broken. Brain's broken, right? So I'm doing all my commitments. I'm a cake chick at a meeting. I'm a cake chick. I'm a greeter guy. I'm a chair setter-upper, coffee dude, and I'm not feeling the magic. I'm just hating. I know it's going to work for you, and it's never going to work for me. And I believe that Earl believes. And I called Earl and I said, I'm going to get married. And he said, well, Lori and I were engaged for a year, but whatever happens, go ahead. Mark Twain said, I've learned a lot from my mistakes. I think I'll go out and make some more. He let me go out and live my life. And she left after 20 days after we got married. And I'm laying in the fetal position crying. And I'm watching this movie called The Bucket List. Right? And this is how I got a spiritual awakening, watching this movie, crying, poor me, looking over there thinking, we ate over there. We held hands over there. And I'm listening to this movie, and this part of the movie comes on. If you haven't seen the movie, it's about this guy who really is just a hardworking guy who doesn't really have anything but has a faith, a strong faith, who's trying to enlighten another person who is a tycoon and has all the money in the world but has no faith at all. And they're on top of the pyramids in Egypt. And what's happening in the movie, in this part of the movie, he says, ancient Egyptians believed that when you pass the gates of heaven, you are asked two questions. The first one is that do you think that you have ever experienced true joy? And the second one is, do you think your life has ever brought joy to another person? And at that very moment when I heard that, I felt this big hand on my back, and I heard in Field of Dreams' voice, you're okay. I had a spiritual awakening. Something happened to me. And I know that those two things are synonymous now because like I talked about, the big buzz, that's the big buzz. The true joy only comes by bringing joy to other people's lives, by reaching in and being of service to somebody, where my life now makes sense, where it matters that I've lived or died, that I can mean something to other people, that if I don't show up somewhere, that I'm missed, that I am loved. And I didn't have that before. It was the missing component. The only thing that's going to defeat the beast is the constant thought of others. That's the kryptonite that'll kill the beast. If there's something missing from your life and you're coming around here and you're wondering what's missing from my life, it's probably service. It's probably service. Page 62 says, selfish self-centeredness is my problem. Well, what's the contrary action to that? How can I help? How can I help? Right? So, anyway, I started believing in something else. I'll tell you right now, the thing that I believe in, AA didn't teach me how to be spiritual. I believe that I was born spiritual, that I came here spiritual. AA gave me these 12 steps that teaches me how to destroy self. That if I take away self and ego and fear, all that's left is love. And it's the most powerful, powerful force on the planet. Being gentle, being kind, being loving. I mean, what's better than walking away and somebody saying, what a kind person. What a beautiful thing it is. How wonderful it feels to be kind. You know, I feel it for little glimpses, you know. And I'll close with this little story. I was about 9 or 10 months sober or something like that. And I was living in this crappy little apartment. It was one room with no air conditioning. And we had 17 days in a row of triple-digit heat in the valley. And I'm an electrician. I was working at the W Hotel, and I was sitting there in my dirty Carhartts, and I was having to talk myself into going to that damn meeting with those dumb people and do my dumb commitment because I wasn't feeling the miracle yet. Right? And my phone rings, and it's my sponsor. And when your sponsor calls, even if you're delivering a baby, you just cross the legs, answer the phone. That's your sponsor, right? And Earl says, meet me at the corner of Ventura and Reseda. Okay, right? Just jump off the boat, go see my sponsor. So I'm still driving the truck that I used to drink in, right? It's got whiskey wrinkles all over. It's all beat up and dented, and I had to park it in this parking lot way in the back so nobody would see. And I come across the parking lot, and I'm standing in front of Earl, and I'm feeling defeated. Remember, the IRS and the state franchise board took all my money. I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. They're garnishing my check. The only thing I believe in at this point is that Earl believes, and I got all these meetings to go to. And Earl whips out this envelope. I go, what's happening, Earl? And he gives me this envelope. And I said, well, what's that? And if you don't know Earl, he's kind of animated. He goes, open it and find out, like that, right? You know, animated people can be really irritating too when you're miserable, you know? You know when you're new and you walk into a room and everybody's all happy and you're like so miserable? It's tough, isn't it? So I open this paper, and it says, it's a stack of money. And I'm like, dude, I don't want your money. He goes, it's not my money. His paper says, this is an anonymous gift. Keep it or pass it on. I'm like, dude, what's this? He goes, you know all those people you thought if you were on fire, they wouldn't pee on you? You know those people that from your Monday night meeting, they found out, Danny, that you couldn't pay your rent and that you couldn't make your truck payment, and they love you, and most of them couldn't even afford it, and they got together and they wanted to help you because they want you to stay. And I started getting emotional with a man in broad daylight in a parking lot. So I gave him a quick dude hug, and I started to run away. And as I ran over to my car, which was way far away, like the corner of this room, Earl said the most important thing that a man has ever said to me in my life. He said, Danny, you're part of something. And that damn that I was holding back the whole time. Oh, God, I'm part of something. Oh, snot coming out of my nose, man. I couldn't even get in my car. I'm sitting there holding on to this piece of paper, man. I'm holding on. And I'm driving down Ventura, trying to drive. I'm parked at a green light. Can't even drive because tears crying so hard. And this woman next to me, she goes, are you okay, dear? And I said, I'm part of something. Really, I swear that's what happened. I went into my little tiny crappy apartment that now looked palatial, you know? And I'm sitting on the corner of my bed and I'm holding this piece of paper and I can still hear the tears falling off my cheek, hitting that piece of paper. I can still hear it, and I'm holding this piece of paper that represented something. That represented you can do this. You are part of something. You don't have to die. You can matter to somebody. You're going to make it. You're going to make it, and there's a bunch of people that believe in you, dude. So I took that thing just like I was in a county jail, put toothpaste on the corners and stuck it up on my mirror. You know, been a long time since I was able to look in the mirror. I used to break the mirror, rip the mirror off because I hated my reflection. And AA has made it able for me to close the mirror and be able to look at myself, you know. And that started it for me, you know, started it for me, gave me once again it's just love was the only thing that was able to help me, and you know. And since then, that was I got sober February 18th, 2008. I had 9 years this last February. I've been trying to follow in the lineage of my sponsor, you know, from Bill W., Chuck C., Norm Alpe, the late great Donald Madden, Earl H., and I sponsor a legion of guys, and they all know who my sponsor is, and they knew who his sponsor was, and I go to my home group no matter what. I have people over at my house. I inconvenience myself all the time because when people ask me, what do you do? I tell them I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what I do. I happen to do electrical work and have a band. But what I really do and what matters to me is Alcoholics Anonymous. It's turned a man, it stood me up from a man that couldn't stand up before. It's given me integrity. It's given me the ability to respect other people, the ability to love you and to let you love me. And I really, really appreciate you having me here, and I hope you have a fantastic convention. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.